Welcome to Radiantly Rooted. I'm your host, Rachel Hupp, and I have a very special guest with me here today, Kim Costa. Welcome, Kim.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
Good morning. So, Kim Costa is a realtor, TV host, and author whose life completely shifted after healing from a broken back through yoga. And that experience rooted her in a deeper purpose and inspired her to create the Wheelhouse Method, helping people align their homes with their well being. Her book, Live in Your Wheelhouse, explores how our spaces can support healing, clarity, and authentic living. Kim brings warmth, mindfulness, and real life wisdom to every conversation. And she's all about helping people create a home that feels as grounded as they want to feel inside. So, welcome, Kim. I'm so excited to chat with you today. So, it sounds like you have lived a rich, layered life as a realtor, as a TV host, and now as an author. But you've shared that everything shifted after your injury. Can you take us back to that season of life and what changed for you?
Sure. Okay, so I was living an active life. It was 2001. I was in my mid 30s, doing Pilates and yoga and playing tennis and horseback riding. And trying to golf, but had a pretty full schedule. I like to golf. I still like to golf. So I was horseback riding. I was not a great horseback rider, but that's what part of my family was doing. And everyone in my community is a horse farm community. So I was trying to learn and I pushed it too hard, and got on a horse that was not fully trained, and the horse bolted and kind of threw me up in the air, and so I landed badly on my back and crushed my L2. And so they repaired it, and I went home to start to heal and was in a walker and everything. And once I could finally like get myself somewhere, several months later, I started to drive to this place called Plum Tree Yoga. I mean, I could barely move, and so I would get out of the car and get in, and it was specifically a yoga class for people who had back injuries, and I was like, "Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you." And I just remember the first thing I was able to do with my feet up on, bolsters was to do the clock around my lower back, I would go up to, like, from 6 to 12 and from 3 to 9, and then I would go around the circle, and that's, like, all I could do. And it just started to loosen up my back again enough to where I started feeling better, and I became hooked on yoga ever since. It really I really have very little remaining effects of what should have been full paralysis,
Oh my
and,
goodness.
it was such a miracle and such a blessing, and I've met such great people since then.
Oh my goodness. Wow, what a story. And I'm so glad that you've had such amazing recovery and that you are wow, that gave me chills hearing about your story.
Yeah.
Now you said that your healing rooted you in a deeper purpose. How did that experience kind of open the door for the work that you're doing today?
Well, I always loved to write, and I always liked to express myself in that way, and people liked my stories through the years, growing up, and then even when I broke my back, I started writing again, and I wrote into the Oprah Winfrey Show, and they were going to come film at my house, and I told them no because I was overwhelmed, and that's when I realized how out of alignment my home was with, my purpose, and I always liked to write, and so as I progressed with, like, healing, and my doctor said put her hand on my legs as I was getting ready to leave the hospital, and they were still numb, and she said, "I'm not sure why you're able to walk still," like I was shuffling at that point, and she said, "But you must have an angel on your shoulder." And I was like, "Well, what? Why was I spared? There's so many folks who 94% of people with my injury never walk again." And so it
Oh my
got to me
goodness.
thinking, what am I supposed to do with this gift? And so I healed, and it took a long time to heal. I changed a lot of things in my life that weren't aligned because I got an injury from being, misaligned. And so that was like, okay, I need to do what I was put here to do. And maybe that's writing and helping people, and from a human resource development type of perspective, which I was always interested in. And yoga is a big part of that. Going to yoga and getting centered with my soul in class and my breathing and my body and the whole, uniting all of those things really paved the path to me thinking of a person as not just their body and not just their soul and their mind, but all three, and how to integrate that and to balance all those things out. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do with this wheel of life is balance all the areas of a person, help them up level all those areas. So that was the
Love it.
long answer.
No, I love it. I love it. And I love how I've had the same experience. Like I came to yoga initially just for the physical practice. And then I
Mhm.
realized, wow, there's something more to this. And you can carry that feeling of being grounded with you beyond your mat and start weaving that energy into your day-to-day life in a very subtle but meaningful ways.
Mm.
And it just helps you stay embodied in your body, with your mind, with your heart, with your breath, and be much more present and grounded in your life and with the people around you.
Yes. And what I also found is because of my personality, I'm an ENFP on the Myers-Briggs scale, which is ENFPs tend to be thinkers, but thinkers and doers and actors and what's the next thing. And I found that yoga helped me. My blind spot is being in touch with my body. And so yoga helped me to integrate my feelings, like feeling what I'm feeling in my body. And like if there's a pain point or if I'm exhausted, I used to just push through.
Mhm.
That causes burnout, and so I started to recognize those signs earlier because of yoga, because you can't when you stop and, like, do a yin class or, I did a power class the other day, and it was not what my body needed,
Ah,
and so I literally just did child's pose, and my back was hurting on that day for because 'cause I've been sitting and writing, and so
mhm.
I was like, "Okay, I really paid attention, I'm so proud of myself." Yes, I didn't do well in the class at all, and I told the instructor beforehand, You may see me do child's pose a little bit today because my back's a little sore, I'm gonna honor that, and don't worry, I'm okay, but I'm not going to injure myself." So yoga has helped me pay attention to my body before it it's a whisper like, "Oh, you have an ache and a pain, let's work on that, let's breathe into it." But before it becomes an injury, yoga's helped me recognize that.
I love that so much. I teach yoga too, and one of my favorite things is seeing students empowered enough to make their practice their own. I always tell them, Shavasana is an entire practice.
Yes.
Child's pose is an entire practice. Like you're here for you. You're not here for me. So it's not
Mhm,
about performance. It's not about how it looks. Like there's no way to do it wrong. The only way
mhm.
to do it wrong is if you don't listen to your body. So I love that you honor that.
Yeah, and I just told myself, "At least I'm here." I did, 2/3 of the class well.
Yeah, that's great. And that you listened to what your body needed.
Mhm. Yes, so important.
See, it is. Oh, it is. You touched on this a little bit earlier, but I wanted to maybe dive a little bit deeper into how you really realize that the way that we live in our homes kind of mirrors the way that we live on the inside.
It very much does. If there's chaos in your life, it's going to show up in your home, and
Oh,
vice
yeah.
versa. If there's chaos in your home, you're not gonna have that respite because it's not going to be a calm place for you to refill yourself. So, I think in many ways, if something's lacking in your life, you may not have a space for it in your home. And sometimes if your life changes externally, that forces a move, whether it's, having children or, getting older and retiring and things like that, your home has to flex with your life.
Yes, yes. So many of our listeners are navigating major transitions like that in
Mm.
life. And that's a really good point that I'm happy that you brought up.
Mm. Yes, and so my process helps people in overwhelmed people in life transition or people wanting a change. Sometimes change is forced and sometimes change is chosen. And it's a system, sort of like guardrails, to help people ask themselves questions like, what does my ideal life look like at this point? Not 5 years ago, but looking ahead from now to looking ahead. What can I plan on to either stay here and refunction a room or do a small renovation? Or if the transition is big enough, they may need a new home. But before you make a new home, let's decide exactly what that lifestyle looks like.
Exactly. I love that. I love that. And I'm totally with you. Something you mentioned a little bit just a few minutes ago. When my mind is cluttered, when I feel like I'm overwhelmed and disconnected, my environment reflects that. And I walk
Yes.
into the room and I immediately feel scattered. And then it's like it just reinforces. It's like a loop where it just one
Yes.
reinforces the other. And so
Yeah.
even just taking 5 or 10 or 15 minutes to declutter or dust or do something helps
Yeah.
me feel more grounded as well.
That is so spot on. I just got chills when you said take 5 or 10 minutes because I've been on the run the past couple of days with many fun things for Christmas and whatnot, but also work and writing, editing the book and all of that. And my kitchen and my living area became cluttered as I was dumping and running and getting back out the door. And so this morning I just had time to clear the kitchen counter and hang up my coat from last night. And so I did that knowing that, okay, yes, I'll get to everything else later, but at least my little operating path right here to get my coffee and whatnot is clear. So, people shouldn't be too hard on themselves. Just take a little bit at a time. If you have 5 or 10 minutes, clean up what you can. And so like you don't go back and it relieved a little anxiety for me to do that this morning. Like, okay, I can't do all of this right now, but I will grab my coffee, clean off the counter, put my coat away, and then make a plan for lunchtime. I'll throw that laundry in or whatever it is that you need to get caught up. Don't get anxiety about it. Know that you can little by little work your way back into having that calm, clutter free space that you normally have.
Yes, yes. And I love that you mentioned that people shouldn't beat themselves up because I feel that so often we are our own harshest critic and we hold ourselves to standards beyond what we would ever expect from anybody else. And so that's just a really powerful reminder that I think most of us need to give ourselves like,
It's not about living perfectly because while I wasn't hanging up my coat last night, it was, I had just come from a group of friends that we celebrated Christmas together. And so that filled me up in my fun area. And so now that cup is full and my clutter-free home plate was not spinning very fast. So now I'm going to direct my attention to that. So I think if you can direct your attention to each of these 8 areas to keep your plates all spinning, you just have to keep mindful, like, oh my gosh, my health one is about to drop. Like, I need to get back to yoga or take a walk or lift some weights or whatever it is that you need that day. It's like, okay, I haven't been paying attention to that area. Let's get back over there.
yes, I was getting ready to ask you, you said your wheelhouse method centers on creating spaces that support authentic living.
Mhm.
And so you mentioned these 8 different areas. So can you dive a little bit deeper into what that might look like in everyday life?
Sure, sure. And I refer to my notes because I often start to get through the 8 areas and I'm like, okay, which one have I not mentioned? So I'm going to read them to you. So it's fun, romance, career, finance, family and friends, spirituality, health, and environment. So those are the 8 areas, and the wheelhouse method goes through each of those 8 areas and asks questions going up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So from physiological needs like your health, I mean, your water, sleep, food. Obviously, if you don't have those things, you actually just need a home, So that's the very bottom. And then it goes up through safety, esteem, love and belonging, all the way up through aesthetics to self actualization. So the goal is to fix problems, which are unresolved needs in each of the 8 areas to get you as high in each area. So the wheel is an inflated tire, not a flat tire. And then you can continue on through life with, feeling full.
What a great visual. I love that. And I've used the wheel of life in my own life for many, many
Sure.
years. And
Mhm.
it's interesting when I started, it was more like that deflated tire. And over the years, it's cool to see how like I date it and I try to do it like at least twice a year and
Mhm.
how it's evolved and it's expanded and it's much more robust.
Yes.
But I never thought about pairing it with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I'm gonna have to try that.
Yes. And so the questions in the assessment are grouped into each need so that if you have a physiological need in the health area, that's pretty serious. And so that would probably be weighted more than, say, an aesthetic need in fun. Like
Yes.
in my hobby room, I love the paint color. Do like so as you go through the questions, you know that if you have a lower need that's not satisfied, it's going to demand more attention.
Yeah, that's really good because so many of us, I feel like we get overwhelmed. We want to
Mm,
try to fix everything all at once. And
mhm,
having that wheel and a system to help you figure out, like, okay, where should I focus first? Like, once you
mhm.
get that area a little bit more settled, a little bit more where you feel grounded or more connected or more whatever it is, then you've got the energy to devote to something else that you can work on. So just like one piece of the pie at a time.
Piece of the pie. Sort of like your word of the year, what you're gonna focus on for the next year, perhaps for a season, even half a year, you can pick one of the spokes to work on that's feeling a bit low for you. And then for me, it's health right now. So I've got a walking pad in my Zen den across the way. And so I'm going to try to take more, it's cold now. So I'm going to try to take more breaks and walk, or even if I'm on a Zoom call, I'm going to try to just walk slowly and move a little bit more. And it's just a very small thing that I've done in my home that I felt was lacking.
Yes, and that makes such a big difference in how
Mm.
you feel and how you move through your day.
Mhm.
So what have you found usually happens inside a person when their home is out of alignment with who they are or how they want to feel?
Well, I think it shows up as sometimes it's a strong, like, I'm very frustrated coming home. Like, I need to get work done, but I don't have doors on my office. It's an open floor plan and the kids are running through the house and I can't concentrate. It shows up as frustration. It can show up as loneliness, as an empty nester, and the home is just a little too quiet for them and too big and it feels empty. Um, so it shows up as feelings that you need to pay attention to and either hit the pause button and figure out how to fix or change a little something or move your life along to whatever you're transitioning through. So normally it's feelings. And I think meditation and yoga helps addressing those because those get stuck in your body. Those feelings get stuck in your
Mhm.
body if you don't address them.
Yes, that's for sure. That's for
Mm.
sure. I'm just loving the thread of this conversation. And I love how, you're talking about how you came to yoga to help you recover from this injury. It's helped you feel more grounded. It's helped you to de stress. You kind of use that grounding to help people, the feeling of alignment, mind, body, and spirit, to also extend it out beyond the physical body into our environment in our home. You've created this wheelhouse method to really help people understand how changing your lifestyle to live more authentically, to create that aligned environment inside and out, so that they can really reach the maximum potential.
Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that, about why it's so important to fill your own cup, to take care of yourself, to prioritize yourself?
Yes. It's funny, this popped in my head. I've often thought about incorporating the chakras into this, because they're each different centers. And so that's to be developed in the future, but it would be interesting to think about how each of those areas might be expressed in your home as well. So that might be a future topic for me. But I just think that it's so important that people, in order to feel better and feel their best, that they look at each of these areas and go ahead and like just change their environment a little bit here and there so that it aligns with the person they want to be. And I think that the mind, body, soul part of it, the home is a reflection of your soul, or it should be. And
Yeah.
if there is a misalignment there, you are going to feel it. And it may be unconscious or subconscious or just a general feeling of discomfort in some way, and it's not your fault. It's just a matter of maybe I don't have enough light in my home, and I'm feeling a little seasonally down, because and so maybe I spoke with someone the other day. She's a covered front porch, and she doesn't feel like her home gets enough light in it. And I said, "Well, can you change your paint color to be a warmer color? Can you sit on your front porch so that you get that direct sunlight in the morning?" So maybe you don't have to move because you're not getting enough sunlight, but what are some other ways? Take a walk in the morning, get that sunlight on your face. That's proven to help. So it's not always about a move, it's about tweaking what you've got now. And then later on, when your life changes enough, make sure you get a home where that light's just like beaming through. If that's important to you, it's beaming through your morning area so that you wake up to sunlight. It's proven to help your mental health and your physical health. It's just about figuring out what is lacking or that where that discomfort is and just sitting with it and then figuring out options to fix it. And hopefully the book helps prompt some of those. It's going to be different for everybody, so it covers everything, there'll be questions that some people that won't matter to them. I mean, I think one question is, do you need backyard space for your dog or something? And if people don't have a dog, they can just skip on to the next. But then something else going to really resonate with them, and they'll make a note of that particular area.
Yes, I love that you said that. And I love that you are talking about really letting the process meet people where they are. So, like you said, you don't have to change. It doesn't have to be a big change. Do what
That's
you can with what you have where you are.
right.
And then when things change, let the system, let the process evolve.
Right. And have a goal in mind to where you might want to be in 2, 3, 4 years and work towards that goal. Kind of like me
Yes.
in yoga the other day. I couldn't do the whole class, but if I just need to maybe do some more weights and come to power yoga more. And that way I can complete the whole thing. So I have a goal in mind and I have a visual of me doing that in my head. And so just little by little, just I'll complete, 3/4 of the class next time. Yeah.
I love
Or
that.
even
I love
a
that.
lesser class and work my way back up.
Yes.
Mhm.
Many different ways to make your way towards the same goal. So that's one
Absolutely.
thing too. There's so many different paths.
Yes. Yeah.
And I love how you mentioned the chakra system and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's cool that you said that because I'm actually teaching a class where I layer the two together. And it's
Oh,
just
you
so
can oh,
fascinating
that's
to see how like, you can pair them up. So you're going to have fun when you dive into that.
amazing. Oh,
But
you're gonna have to come on my podcast and talk about this
uh,
then.
yeah, so tell our listeners, that's a perfect segue. Tell our listeners a little bit more about your podcast and your book. You've got so many exciting things going on.
Yes, I mean, it's all the same through line to kinda get these frameworks out and help pe as many people as I can through my they say you're most powerfully positioned to help the person you once were. So to help
Yeah.
line with their ideal lifestyle for how they were made, who they are. And so the podcast is the same title as the book, and it's out now. It's Live in Your Wheelhouse, and wheelhouse is 2 words. So that's out now, wherever podcasts are. And then the book, which is basically the same frameworks, is coming out in March. So those are 2 ways they can find out more.
Awesome. And I'm going to put both of the links in the show notes. So people listening, you're welcome to check out those links, check out the podcast, stay tuned for the book coming out soon. If someone is listening right now and they're feeling kind of stuck in their environment or in their body or at the heart, what do you think is like one small shift? We talked a little bit about this earlier, but I don't know if we could maybe go a little deeper. What's a small shift that might help them feel a little bit more grounded and supported?
I think journaling is always good, and some prompts might be, um, what's missing, what do I feel is missing from my life right now? What is causing this and insert feeling loneliness, frustration? What are some things that are causing this? And then maybe even on the more positive side, what did I used to like to do that I'm not doing now? And I think some prompts to either meditate on or go for a walking meditation or journal, just to kind of hit the pause button and really identify what you're feeling and the reason for that.
Yes, I think journaling is so powerful and um, simple, but often underutilized method
Mhm,
for
mm,
connecting with ourselves on a deeper level.
mhm,
Um, what about for our listeners who, like, you mentioned your goal of completing a power yoga class and
mhm.
the steps that you're going to take to get there? What if they don't know what their goal is? How does your method help them figure out what they should focus on? We touched a little bit on this earlier, but I know some of the women who come to me are just so um, overwhelmed with whatever they're navigating in life, they don't even know where to start.
Well, they're so busy, and that was me. I was so
Yeah.
busy with the day to day and the doing. I really think that going through a lot of so there'll be a description of each area before they start into the questions as to like what current research is showing, what research shows that helps solve some of these problems. And then once they start the questions, something might trigger a response once they read it, like, "Oh, I've had a reaction to that question." And then that's gonna show them what they need to focus on more and just sit with for a moment, because we tend to action does help things. It helps relieve anxiety, it solves problems, but action without focus, or a direction in mind could just lead to moving more in the wrong direction. So I
Mhm.
think it's very important to pinpoint what your pain is coming from specifically. And I mean, there are probably 25 or 30 questions for each area. And so at some point, they'll have a visceral reaction to one of the questions, and they can highlight it, they can write it down and just think on that for a little while and before they figure out what their options are to try to solve that. So it's really the pause button and focus.
I think that's so perfect because building that awareness is so helpful and powerful. And to your point, we can keep doing the same thing we've always been doing, but if we're just
Yes.
going in a circle or if moving in a pathway or a direction that doesn't feel aligned, doing the same thing is not going to help us to recenter or change anything. We're going to stay, this time next year, we're going to be in the same exact spot we're in right now. So taking that time, even though it's difficult in our busy, overstimulated, always on world,
Yes.
taking that time to stop and tune in is just so powerful, even if it's just a few minutes.
Just a few minutes. And, a lot of times our routines take over. And it might be that you just need to investigate whether you're a night person or a morning person and just give yourself permission to be who you are. And I've turned into um, is a lark a morning person? I think so. So I've turned into a morning person, and I have allowed even though my husband is not, I've allowed myself to wake up earlier and just do my own little routine and watch the birds out back with a cup of, and I steal his lazy boy,
Oh, there
for
you
a
go.
minute. I sit there and I meditate and I listen to a good podcast and I watch the birds and sip my coffee and then I get going and it just has completely changed my day. Yeah.
Yes, it's funny. I've done the same thing. It's like just a short little morning routine. If I have more time, I can do more.
Yeah.
But my basic morning routine, it's some deep breaths, it's setting some intentions, it's feeling gratitude, and a little bit of stretching. And I can do it in under 3 minutes if I want to. But if I have more time, I can luxuriate and really like just settle in. But it helps you direct how your energy is going to flow as you move throughout your day.
Mhm. It does. It does, and I think my point is too, is just don't be afraid to tweak little things in your routine. Just because you've done the same thing for 10 years doesn't mean that it's the best thing for you. So, it does not have to
Mhm.
be huge. Just try it. If it doesn't work, no harm, no foul. Try something else. You don't have to commit for the rest of your life.
Exactly. I love that. I love that. So, your book, Live in Your Wheelhouse, sounds like it grew straight from your own transformation. What would you say is the message that you most want people to take away from this book?
Live as yourself. And you don't always have to do what everybody else is doing. Do what makes you happy and fills you up and what you're meant to do. I was an accountant for 27 years, probably not my best choice. However, and so I made the change. I made the change in my late 40s and 50s. And it was hard, to switch, but I would just say, just don't be afraid to make the changes because you only have one life. And I'm hoping I have at least 20, 30 good years left. I was with my mom, who's 89 yesterday. She's still thriving and driving and doing all the things. So I'm like, okay, I've got 30 years left to really be me. Right. And so a series of small changes and some bigger changes over the last 10 years has gotten me to where I'm absolutely thriving, both in my home and in my life. But it took some concerted effort.
I love that. I always tell my clients that the small shifts are what really add up to major transformation. You're right. And I'm glad that you said that because I'm 45 and I am leaving my corporate job that I've been at for 16 years next week. And so there is a lot of fear,
Mhm.
but you can feel that fear and you can know that I can get through this fear. Like it's just the unknown. I'm an entrepreneur as well.
Mhm.
And so, moving from one phase and season of my life into the next, it can be scary and you can do it anyway. And so it's inspiring that you've done it and you're on the other side.
That is exciting. I'm very excited for you. And you'll be surprised how many things you've learned in your corporate life that you can now take into being an entrepreneur. And it's not like you've left that completely behind. You have that wisdom to take with you.
Yes, yes. And that's very powerful too, because everything along our journey helps to prepare us for the next stage and season that we're heading towards. And it's just such a rich and layered experience.
Very true. I'm excited for you.
Well, thank you. And I'm excited for you too. I'm excited for your book coming out next March. Um, is there anything else on your heart that you feel like we need to leave our listeners with, or do you feel complete with our message today?
I feel very complete with our message today, especially hearing about your next journey. And I just love these conversations and getting to meet wonderful people like you. So you have really enriched my life today, hearing about you living your journey so fully.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. What an inspiration, and so happy that you have been able to heal through this journey and share that transformation with other people. So, if people wanted to get in touch with you, I know I'm going to post your link to your book and your link to your podcast in the show notes. Is there any other way that they need to know to get in touch with you or to stay in touch with your journey?
Well, I can always be found on social media at Kim E. Costa. Kim E. Costa. My nickname is Kimmy. So that's what I put on everything. And that they can follow along with, the book launch and the journey and a little bit on my personal life and where I live, bits and pieces. So if they're interested, they can find me there.
Awesome. And I'll post that link in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kim. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your transformational message. And to all of our listeners, I hope that you will check out Kim's resources in the link below and allow this to really inspire you to take those small steps to make the shifts that you've been needing or wanting to make in your own life. Thanks for listening to Radiantly Rooted with Rachel. If this episode brought you a little more clarity, grounding, or inspiration, I'd love it if you shared it with a friend or left a quick review. It really helps more women find this space and feel supported on their own paths. And if you are craving more soulful support, head on over to rachelhupp.com to join my email list. That's where I send free resources, gentle guidance, and invitations to go deeper. Until next time, trust yourself and root in to what matters. Because the life you want, it starts by coming back home to you.